Florian Xhekaj is shining at the Habs development camp, and he had some quotes showing some confidence that we didn't even expect, saying he wants to play for the Habs this year. We're going to get into all of that, plus a couple of surprising standouts from the red versus white scrimmage. And Director of Player Development Rob Ramage has some comments on how the Habs could solve a huge problem on their back end. All of that coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. Jesse, let's get right into it. And I want to start. Rob Ramage had a great interview. I suggest you guys go watch it. It was about a 14-minute interview where he was talking about different prospects, all these guys. But one guy that we wanted to focus on, there's a lot of great stuff in there, but I wanted to focus a bit on Adam Engstrom. Now, as you guys know, Adam Engstrom had a fantastic year over with Guhle. They went to the finals. He was a fantastic scoring defenseman for them. 4 points in 15 playoff games, 22 points in 51 regular season games as a teenage or 20-year-old, 19, 20-year-old defenseman. But it was Rob Ramage's comments today, Jesse, on this left shot defenseman that has a lot of Habs fans pretty happy, and I'll show you here now. He has great feet. His mobility, his skating is exceptional. He's certainly capable of playing on the right side. This guy's a competitor. He's hungry. Now, we've been pegging in Adam Engstrom as being that left D kind of guy, but he played most of this season on the right side in Guhle. And when Ramage was asked about this, absolutely he thinks he could do it. He thinks with those adjustments with the North American ice, it'll take time, but Jesse, that could solve a solid problem for the Habs. And I know they've played Harris and Guhle on the right side, sort of not against their will, but that's not really where they were best. But with Engstrom already having this pro experience, I think this could be a nice little addition coming up on that second, third pairing right D if things work out.
A nice little addition, and also I would say in an advantage, big advantage in this very crowded defensive prospect pool for the Montreal Canadiens. We have a lot of defense, right? But if you can play that right side, that immediately just makes you that much more effective, and possibly valuable, for this Habs for just what we need for right now. Obviously, we got some really great guys in Reinbacher kind of coming up, right? But the fact that Engstrom is getting this opportunity to do this over in Rogel, is huge. And unfortunately, he couldn't be at the player development camp. A lot of the European guys, Reinbacher again, etc. Just felt for them, they want to have them training as much as possible instead of traveling and kind of going back to just kind of keep putting that time in the gym. And that's exactly what Adam Engstrom is doing, working on putting on a little bit more size, working on that defensive game a little bit more. But we know that the offense is there. And I'm excited, Josh, because I'm getting the feeling that we're going to see him in Laval before we know it. And, could Adam Engstrom be a guy, before the end of the season, somehow seeing him in Montreal? That would obviously be a huge shift for him, and obviously come very soon. But he's that type of really good player where, just like how the Habs at the end of the year, some of their top prospects, they like to give him a little bit of time. I'm wondering if he just couldn't be one of those players.
I mean, it's possible. Is it likely? Probably not, because again, there's a lot of defensemen on Montreal. He's still going to need to pass. I don't know if they'd give him a shot over Reinbacher at all. I don't think that would happen. Even Mailloux, right? And you still have Barron, so you're still a little clogged on the right side. But what we are seeing is that potential. And while Rob Ramage also said, like you said, Jesse, he needs to work on his defensive game. His skating is exceptional. His foot movement is phenomenal. He has all the tools. All it takes is a little bit to develop. So I hope to see him in Laval soon. They said they would have loved to have him last year, but of course with Rogel going all the way to the finals, they couldn't pull what Reinbacher did. They'd say, hey, stay over there, Adam. Do your best. So really cool to hear that update from him, and I'm going to be very interested to track him on the right side, maybe over the left moving forward. But we got to talk a bit about the scrimmage today, Jesse, the people that are at the development camp, and there were some unexpectedly good performances, honestly. It was really fun. It was broadcast on YouTube. We got to catch most of it. And of course, Michael Hage had such an amazing goal here. He comes in, he sneaks by and pokes it top cheddar. But there were some other guys, Jesse, that really stood out. We'll probably talk a bit about Hage as well. And that's Joshua Nadeau getting a hat trick. And we also got Sam Harris scoring 2 goals. Now, before we get into these guys, I do want to talk just for a second on Hage. How impressive was he today, Jesse? He looked like, I would say, the standout. He's not one of these unexpected performances, but Michael Hage just he showed why he was a first-round draft pick. He was just unbelievable.
Yeah, smooth skater out there, and just such a great play starter in a lot of ways, right? Of really kind of knowing those great outlet pass, to kind of get in the zone, just overall kind of being that playmaker of orchestrating a lot of offensive play for the Montreal Canadiens. Of course, he was going right against Beck, which is a matchup I really like. with Hage and Beck there. Obviously, a little bit of a rivalry. Hage getting the better of him today, obviously, but Beck's going to come back.
Yeah, Beck got hurt a little bit, which was unfortunate. He kind of missed a good chunk of the game, but I'm sure he'll come back. Maybe it was a bruise. He blocked a shot, is what it is. But yeah, it's going to be so exciting to keep an eye on that. Two guys that are going to be fighting for center positions in the future. But I wanted to talk about the other guys. And the first guy of these two, the 5 goals combined between Harris and Nadeau. I want to talk a bit about Sam Harris. And we actually have a quote from Rob Ramage as well. He was asked about him. He said, well, I went and saw him in early February. He was playing the 4th line. They got some injuries. I didn't even think I'd go back and see him, but he climbed the lineup and started scoring. So I went back to see him. Great progression for him too. And if I bring up his stats, Jesse, he was really solid. I mean, he's a bit of an overager, I suppose. He's turning 21 in October, just coming off his freshman season, but he's a champion with the University of Denver. They won the title, 14 goals. And again, the start of the season, he's only playing a few minutes a night on that 4th line. He really climbed his way up. And the thing I was surprised about with him today, Jesse, is watching him play. He has solid speed, solid size, a solid shot. And I don't think he's necessarily an NHL talent, but at the very least, he left me pretty impressed with a former 5th round pick that we had kind of tossed out as I don't think Sam Harris is really going to do much. He made a name for himself in the second half of the season. There's a reason the Habs went back to keep looking at him, and I can see a world where he gets some decent time in Laval in the next maybe couple of years whenever he's done in college, because I think he has enough talent to make it to the pros for sure.
Really taking advantage of this opportunity. And it's hard to overstate how important this game is for these young players. We look at it as just kind of a red versus white scrimmage, but these players have worked so long to get here, right? So for a player like Harris, you don't really hear about all the time. This is huge for him, really having a big game. Of course, playing with Michael Hage helped a lot. They had a lot of great chemistry there early, so an amazing showing for the young man.
For sure. And the final guy, there's not a whole lot to say about him, but Joshua Nadeau, as you guys probably know, his brother was a pick by a 1st-round draft pick, I believe, by the Carolina Hurricanes, Bradley Nadeau. He's 5'8", 158, 20 years old, again, almost 21, but had an amazing season in Hockey East for the University of Maine. He's coming in here and he scores a hat trick at the development camp. Another tiny guy. I know the comment section, you guys down there, you don't like the small players, but again, one of these guys, just a camp invite. The Habs saw his season. They're like, hey, come here. We want to check you out, right? You might have some talent. I remember we spoke how it could be a good idea when they first brought him in. And Jesse, I think he's absolutely making the most of his opportunity right now.
Yeah, he was showing some good hands out there, good motor all over the ice, right? So again, this is a really big opportunity for him, and he's taking advantage of it, right? These type of development camps, we've seen NHL careers as unlikely as they might seem kind of come from that. Now, we're not inferring that this is going to be the case necessarily, right? But again, playing very well. He's with the hat trick. He's doing all that he can on his end. So you definitely have to salute him.
Yeah, the only thing we need him to do is go to the Lane Hudson Bone Zone School of Growing Your Bones. And if he can turn into a 5'10", 11 guy, who knows? Maybe things are going to be very different. But there's one guy, Jesse, that also played really well today. And he's a guy that's maybe not unexpected. And that is Florian Xhekaj. And oh boy, Jesse, does confidence ever run in this family. My gosh, Florian Xhekaj with an unbelievable goal here today as well. I think, do I have it here? Oh yeah, there he is, sniping at top corner. As you can see, they're wearing number 60, but it's the quotes that he had very recently that really stood out. And he said, he was asked hey, do you think you'll plan for this season to be fully in Laval? He said, no, I don't. When I say that, talking about, where his plans are, when I say that, I'm thinking of Montreal or Laval. I'm confident. I want to play for the Montreal Canadiens this year. That's what I meant. Of course, he has the opportunity to go back to the OHL as an overager, but I don't think him or the Habs want that. And he clearly wants to make to that next level. He went on to say that I've always known I've got the skills and a good shot. Then you have to take advantage of the opportunities you get. I had the opportunity to play with the best players on my team, and I took advantage of it. The puck started coming in. He was scoring goals left and right, Jesse. Rob Ramage was so impressed by him. He said, honestly, one of the biggest things was his hockey sense is better than anyone could have imagined. He's putting up these goals. He's looking amazing in the development camp, and he's still super raw. Everything seems to be coming together for Florian at the right time. And I'm honestly, I don't even want to say baffled, because it seems to run in the Xhekaj family to have these kind of explosions out of nowhere, but holy moly, everything he's saying, everything he's doing is getting me absolutely hyped.
And that's why Florian and both Arber are going to be so good as their careers progress, because they're so raw. We're going to see Arber get a lot better, and Florian as well. So this is why you do not bet against both of these players. Setting his sights high right away, saying he wants to be in Montreal this year. Now, would we expect anything less from a Xhekaj? They're fighters. We know this about them, right? But not just that. Very much like his brother, he's a man, many different skills. And he was really putting that on display in the tournament today, rather than the development camp, where he's not just carrying the puck into the zone, but then he's also, of course, very effective along the boards, winning those battles there, but balancing out while sniping a beautiful goal, right? So this is a player that has a lot of those hard skills, plays the game with an edge, right? But then when you're able to then have those opportunities, it's really intriguing, right? He's saying bold words, but you know what, Josh? I'm not going to bet against him.
No, I'm not. And you look at, like, there's people who've talked about, certain fourth lines, like the Islanders had that culture line, right? There's sometimes you need these kind of guys. And of course, the Habs have Pezzetta on that fourth line now. I can see a world where Xhekaj eventually takes over that type of role because he's bigger than Pezzetta. Now, Pezzetta probably is going to lay the body a bit more, is a bit quicker on his feet for sure. But Xhekaj now, like, has scored more goals, like, in the OHL than Pezzetta kind of ever did in the minors, right? So that offensive potential is, I would argue, higher than Pezzetta's, and he's taller. He still needs to put on a bit of weight, but my gosh, like, just having a guy like that potentially on your team to scare opponents, but also have that kind of upside to score a goal if you're needed. Even if you score 7-8 goals in the season at the NHL level as a fourth liner, that's still nothing to scoff at, and it's very valuable. And I think Florian, like, he's so confident in himself, but he also knows the role that he would end up playing, right? I think he knows that kind of play style, while not as common in the NHL today, is still extremely valuable. And I think he's going to do everything he can to show that, like, hey, my skill set belongs on the rink in an NHL arena.
Absolutely. And I see him getting onto that fourth line with the Habs. You'd have to say, like, his ceiling is that of, like, kind of that third line. But again, we can't even rule that out. Obviously we're projecting a couple of years definitely into the
definitely
future.
A ceiling but, at that point.
Yeah, definitely. But if he could get there, that's the type of thing, right? And again, you have to set your goals high, right, in order to achieve it. So obviously he's going to have his work cut against him, but again, he's a player that's going to mature very nicely for this team. And I think just due to his, his ethic and also with the skill, he's going to be a guy that's going to be hard to get rid of in a lot of ways.
Yeah, exactly. And again, like, you never know with his potential. Everything is pointing up, and hey, who are we if we don't overhype every single prospect? We look at the ceilings, the highest possible outcomes, because you never know which ones are going to hit. Some are going to flop, some are going to hit. And hey, though, with this confidence, Jesse, I got a good feeling about the Xhekaj family. But what do you guys think about Florian and these quotes? We'd love to hear from you down below about him, because I think he's a fan favorite, and for a very good reason. That'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you all so much for tuning in every single day. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.